Hello friends, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today in this video I am going to tell you what is object-oriented programming and what are its basic principles. So let's start with what is object-oriented programming. It is a programming paradigm which is based on objects and data rather than functions and methods. It is a methodology which helps us to organize complex programs into simpler ones. Since the complex programs are broken down into smaller classes and objects, it is easier for us to make changes in the application. Also, when we need to add new features, it becomes easy as it can be done simply by adding few objects or sometimes by modifying the existing one. The main aim of object-oriented programming is to make the application more clear, reliable, and easy to maintain. Object-oriented programming also enables us to model the real-world objects more closely in the application. Now, what are the basic principles of object-oriented programming? The abstraction, encapsulation, inheritance, and polymorphism. All these can be considered as the four pillars of object-oriented programming. So let's understand them one by one. First is abstraction. It is the act of representing the essential features without including the background details or the explanation. It means that this principle will focus on what the object is doing rather than how the action is getting performed. In simpler words, we can say that this feature enables us to define a class by allowing only the necessary details to the outside world. In real life, we can consider driving a car as an example of abstraction. You only need to focus on how you need to drive the car by turning the start button and moving the steering wheel. You need not to consider how the internal engine is working, how the transmission is getting performed, or how the electrical system of your car is working. You only focus on the act of driving. Next feature of object-oriented programming is encapsulation. The wrapping up of data and functions into a single unit known as class is called encapsulation. Any information which will encapsulate it can be declared as public, private, or protected. To declare the class, as shown below, we can use the class keyword and then the name of the class, like public class employee, and it will contain the member functions and data members. Another class EMP is also declared with the keyword class. It also contains a main method. So this is the example of encapsulation. Next feature of object-oriented programming is inheritance. It is the process in which the data members of one class are inherited by another class. The class from which the data members are inherited is known as the base class or the superclass, and the class which inherits the data is known as the derived class or the subclass. As you can see, class pet is declared which will contain some field and methods. Another class cat is also declared which will contain some fields and methods. Now class cat inherits the properties of the base class pet. To inherit the property of the base class pet, class cat, then the colon sign, and then the name of the base class pet is used. So this is how we inherit the properties of the base class pet here. So class pet can be considered as the base class or the super class, and class cat can be considered as the derived class or the subclass. Polymorphism. This is the last concept of object-oriented programming. The word polymorphism is derived from the Greek word poly, which means having more than one form. It is the property by which the same message can be sent to objects of different classes. Each object can respond in a different way depending on its class or behavior. Now there are two types of polymorphism. First is static polymorphism and second is dynamic polymorphism. Static polymorphism is also known as early binding as it occurs at the compile time, and dynamic polymorphism is also known as late binding as it occurs at the runtime. Static polymorphism can be achieved through function overloading and operator overloading, while dynamic polymorphism can be achieved through function overriding. So, hope this video is useful for you. That's all for today. Have a nice day. Thank you.